7 astronauts are currently at the International Space Station. They will be there until next spring, which means they're spending Thanksgiving with the stars. They just released a video showing what their festive meal will include. A lot of the traditional foods like turkey, Brussels sprouts, butternut squash. It's just packaged a little bit differently, you know? Aside from the food, space adventurers shared how grateful they are for their families and for the careers they have.
From all of us on the International Space Station,
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving indeed. Yeah, quite the sight to see them floating around like that. They'll enjoy the turkey. It's just going to, come out of like a tube probably, right?
Oh, that doesn't sound very appealing, does it? But you know what? I guess that's one of the sacrifices when you go to space. I loved your hair, though. It kind of looked like turkey feathers, really, when you think about it. But